it is a very bittersweet welcoming today, as it will be the last for some time, the last for all time. I cannot tell you right now. It is a question that is still up in the air.
He's kind of crazy.
If Angelo felt anything, there was no middle ground.
Double overtime. It goes into Shanice Jenkins, racing down the floor. 2 seconds. One. She throws up a three-pointer. With the youngest won the game. An unbelievable shot. That's the kind of stuff you can watch on YouTube all day long.
You probably wouldn't know it by walking in and looking at him, but he was always the smartest guy in the room.
He was a really good listener. Like, he would always make eye contact with you, and you would really feel like he understood you.
He was a slob. I say that with all love and respect, but he was a slob.
He was a die-hard Chicago Cubs fan.
He did not take himself seriously. Whether he liked it or not, whether it gelled with him or not, he made you feel like you were being listened to.
His entire life was based on what he wanted to do.
Angelo was a good traveler because he wasn't afraid.
And showed that, like, there's more out there than even Europe. There's so many places in the world to visit.
He was my favorite liberal.
Sat and chatted like he had no place to go. Like he had no place to go. He made time. He managed to make time.
Somebody who would walk in my door with his family and you would say, "Hi, Angelo," and he'd hide behind his parents' legs. To somebody who would walk in the door and say, "I'm here."
More than any other person I knew in my life, Angelo really transformed.
The thing that I miss most about Angelo is having a friend. I lost a friend when Angelo passed away.
The grief just is so constant. It just never lets up. There aren't moments where it rises up and you cry. It just is always there at the same level. It's not uncomfortable. I mean, I could function very well with it. But it's just so sad.
We spent a lot of our childhoods together. Our role was to be together. People knew us as being together. We spent endless hours playing baseball, tossing the ball around. I remember he knew every statistic known to men.
And we watched the games together, we traded cards together, we played baseball together in the backyard.
One of the things I remember the most striking when he was little was when he fell in love with baseball.
He knew all the pitchers' ERAs, he knew everybody's batting averages, he knew all the box scores.
I remember as a kid, his favorite Cub, we both loved the Cubs, Kevin Roberson. If you ask somebody today, who is Kevin Roberson, pretty much nobody would know, but Angelo loved Kevin Roberson.
Stats, keeping track of everything.
His memory for that was phenomenal.
And not just like how someone casually likes a sports game, but more
more like the love of like the trivia and the history and the players and the background story.
Mentioned every Cub player's stats. He said, I think Sean Dunston was hitting 312, but he didn't think he was hitting for enough power that year.
You know, he'd come over, we'd talk about the Cubs, of course, because he was brought up correctly by his father, not unlike his mother.
For some unknown reason, he loved the Cubs. I just could never figure it out.
We all liked Kerry Wood and how he was like definition of like what a Cub was, how someone who has had good success but couldn't really make it anywhere because he was a Cub.
Remember one year we got Fergie Jenkins' autograph. Fergie Jenkins is a Hall of Fame pitcher. At that point in time, he was the pitching coach of the Cubs, and I remember driving home with your dad, and we were so excited, yelling out the window to people, "We got Fergie Jenkins' autograph!" And we probably shouldn't have been doing it, but it was a lot of fun.
The Gormans were over a lot. I would often wake up in the summer to find that Michael and Matthew Gorman were already in the backyard with Angelo playing a game of baseball, and I would join in.
Growing up, the Bonadonnas and Gormans hung out at least 3 days a week, if not more.
We wanted to wake up, we wanted to maybe trade cards, catch some cartoons, and go to the park and just play. That was life. That was a good day.
The Angelo of his little years was a real quiet, shy kid.
Quiet. But when he and Michael got together, it seemed like they used to scheme and do things, and but overall he was a quiet kid.
If he was with your mom, I felt he was kind of clingy towards her.
Easy is the one word that comes to mind.
He's the one person aside from Mom and Dad who has been with me ever since the beginning. And the one person that throughout my childhood and adolescence, I just can't imagine life without. You know, just going back and looking back at my growth as a person, my development through childhood, he's just there.
We had very strict rules about bedtime. So one of the great things about our kids is once they went to bed, free and clear. It was like a switch had been flicked, and our lives could return back to the way we used to have them. It was on a weekend, I was alone, I was just gonna maybe pour a little glass of wine and breathe a sigh of relief. But it was my birthday, and he had waited till it was midnight, and he popped in, and he had this big smile, and he said, "Happy birthday." I could just picture him waiting for midnight to come, and planning this out, and then staying awake, and you know, just coming down to wish me happy birthday.
As a kid, I always saw Angelo at our grandma's house every single Sunday, where we had our big pasta dinners where Grandpa made the salad, and we had our Pinners games.
Sunday night dinners were a way of life growing up. You just kind of expected to go there.
They were insane. The house was packed with like little kids and a little bit older kids everywhere in the house.
The main dish was Grandma's famous spaghetti and meatballs. The meatballs she would make by hand were delicious. Not to mention how huge they were.
The food, oh God, nothing compares. Homemade. No one has matched the sauce. Tina has come very close.
Chaos. Sunday dinners were fun, but chaotic. Kids everywhere. You know, Sunday night Simpsons, and you know, those random occurrences where the HBO channel turned at 10:30. That was always a fun, interesting experience with Grandma and Grandpa, but always fun. We always had to eat, take what you want, but want what you take.
Father would make a big salad with the fixins, you know, a lot of things like carrots, a lot of oil and vinegar, and swimming in it. The garlic, you'd bite into it, people would fight over the garlic.
I think about my brothers, and I think about my family growing up, and I think about our experiences, and the love of a family just will always overcome anything that's bad or negative.
Being an uncle in the Walsh family is like having about 40 children,
Overwhelming.
You know, it's one of the most important classifications I have for myself. I like to think there's not many families, I know 0 other families that have this many people, but it's not a collection of 40 random people who see each other on Christmas and that's it. It's 40 people who genuinely want to be together and actively seek each other out.
And I thought everybody grew up with, hey, camping out with 40 people. I guess that's not the case.
It's kind of like automatically having a number of a large group of friends.
People that I'm acquaintances with, and they'll ask a question about your family, and inevitably it gets to, or to me, my extended family is part of my whole identity, and it's my family. I don't really think of it as my extended family, and they're always a little shocked. And I've often gotten the question, well, how do you know all of them? Or do you actually know all of their names? And it makes me laugh because, of course, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
What it means to be a Welsh cousin, I think it means to be a part of a group of some really incredible people. I mean, I think that anybody would do anything for each other. I think that, you know, with our aunts and uncles, I mean, we hit the jackpot.
God, I think I never have heard more rap than I did at Bonadonna family sleepovers, you know, and I'm, you know, Ange was quite convinced that Tupac was still alive.
He would come in at 2 in the morning blasting Tupac and wake me up pretty much every night. So that, I mean, I probably would have preferred not to share a room with him at that point.
And I remember me and Terry and Mac Gorman tried starting a band at one point, which was really, really tragic. And as we're singing some stupid like love song that was really heartfelt at the age of, you know, 9, Angelo would be listening to like Tupac or whatever in the background, just kind of shaking his head at us.
There was this period of time when he was too young to be listening to Tupac, you know, like 9 or 10, maybe even a little bit younger. He listened to it with such interest and like quiet enthusiasm. He's like, "Have you heard this? This is really great."
What would I have
some shots
to
of me
give
in
you
here.
for one little kid?
One beautiful guy.
Chloroform.
He was determined to do things, even if nobody he knew was doing them. He would go to high school dances by himself. He would just go alone because he wanted to do it, and if he didn't know anyone doing it, he would just go by himself.
Throughout his teenage years, throughout high school, he wasn't that social on the weekends or after school.
I don't think Angelo had a social group in high school. I think he was a lot, I wouldn't call it being a loner, but he was, he did his own thing.
The person he was in high school was kind of reclusive. I mean, he was a homebody. He was comfortable with it. I have images of him in his physics class with a table set up in the front room watching Cub games and you know, just doing physics problems and enjoying it. So I love that phase. I loved watching sports with him because he would see things in a football play. I mean, I think because he played football for for 4 years, but he really understood it in a way that I never did and still don't, and he could see, and he would explain it. So
he was an incredibly accepting person, and I know when I first came out, you know, he and Michael Gorman were the first people I told. And I was 12, like I was quite young, and they were 13. So we were all really young. And at that point I wasn't really exposed to lots of people who were open-minded about that. And then like the fact that like people that age say stupid things without thinking, and Ange and Mike were just like amazing right away, you know, and it wasn't like, you know, at the age when you expect people to be saying fag and that's so gay and all that, like he got it and he didn't care and it didn't matter one bit for him. And I will always be thankful for that because that was huge in me, I don't know, coming to terms and liking myself.
I think Ange's personality really started to take shape, the one we hear so much about, when he went to college. So I think that was the beginning, and from there it progressed. When he went to Rome, there was ultimate freedom, and it progressed from there.
We would go out, Angelo would just wear, you know, his really loud t-shirts. Me, on the other hand, I was like, well, I gotta fit in. I'm in Italy, I'm in Rome, I gotta fit in. I'm gonna go down to the grocery store. I'm gonna go down to Upim, the grocery store, and I'll put on a collared shirt and khaki pants so I could fit in. Not Angelo. And he said, don't worry about it. He'd always say, don't worry about it. And he would arrange stuff sometimes. Okay, we're gonna be doing this now. I said, well, how'd you do that? He said, I don't know, I talked to this one guy and he understood me.
And what I was really amazed by is one of the nights, I was there for about 5 days, and one of the nights we went out with a big group from the Rome Center, just how much everybody from the Rome Center loved Ange. Like there was something that previously, that was something I hadn't so much seen before. We're with a group of people, it wasn't, maybe people knew Ange, but everybody knew him and everybody loved him. I was impressed. So I was like, wow, this guy's coming along.
I would say Angelo's personality towards the end of the Rome Center grew. I wouldn't say it changed. I think Angelo came equipped, or at least prepared himself for that experience. Some nights, especially right after the year after, he would just have it, invite only the JFRC friends over, and we, it was just a small, intimate gathering of 5, 6 people sitting around, talking, reminiscing, or playing card games or whatever. And I miss that very much.
During the relationship, while he was in Italy, I was noticing these changes, and just how he wanted more than just to have fun. He wanted to do more, to like change the world. And I noticed when he came back, he was just a different person.
He was somebody that very much sought out opportunities, and every opportunity he found, especially traveling around, he grew from it. He truly grew from it, and he shared that with everyone.
How would I describe Angelo in one word? I don't know if you can describe him in one word, because there's so many different facets that made him Angelo. Yeah, I don't know if there is one word. If there is, I don't know if it's been invented yet.
He's hard to describe, isn't he?
Marian Catholic is absolutely crushed, and as they should be. What a game played by Marian Catholic today. What everybody thought they were going to be going down to state just 2 seconds ago. Whitney Young's fans has stormed the court, and Denise Jenkins has made the shot of her lifetime.
Oh man, I'm sorry, I've got a hot dog in my throat.
Oh, that's
Nick,
classic.
take it.
Okay.
Like the idea of Republican and Democrat existing in this democratic society, like those are just 2 really limiting terms, but then again, we don't have anyone really as a viable candidate to run outside this box, this frame that's been created of Republican and Democrat. So really that's what we have to argue about, but really that's not the way it has to be.
He was himself on the air. I think the best thing you can say about a radio person is that he sounds on air the way that he sounds off air.
Would I call Angelo athletic? You know, he...
I don't know if athletic is the right word.
He had sweaty foot syndrome when he was a kid, and he could not wear shoes.
And he learned to run kind of bow-legged.
Angelo was clumsy.
He was a bullish athlete, not very good.
Angelo just wasn't like a natural sort of movement type person. His basketball jump shot was terrible looking. He like launched it with 2 hands, almost Joakim Noah style. Although he didn't have the rotation because I don't think there's any method to it. He would kind of almost kick himself in the ass as he was jumping in the air with both of his feet a lot.
But he got better at basketball. From my perspective, I mean, listening to people who played against him, he was a bull in the china shop.
I heard his basketball game described as the whitest basketball game that someone had ever seen. He dribbled the ball very high.
Oh, it was all heart. There's no skill whatsoever.
He was a good free throw shooter, actually, but he shot with 2 hands. I mean, he really took the ball and pulled it over his head, and I don't know who taught him how to shoot. It was far from good form.
When he was playing defense, it was more of a mauling type defense rather than kind of fundamental sort of movement of the feet. When he was running, he probably was not stopping when he planned to stop.
We always lost, but we still had a great time, even though we lost on a regular basis. The team, even with, we had some questionable refs there, but at the same time, at the end of the day, we can honestly say we all had a lot of fun.
And something would work out, we'd get a steal, and Angelo would take off down the court with the ball, and I'd go from playing hard defense, have to be sprinting down the floor, 110%, pouring my soul into every step that I'm taking, Angelo racing ahead, and rather than taking advantage of the possession or the numbers we might have or work as a team to make the most of this unexpected possession, Angelo would go flying through the air, taking off from a step inside the free throw line and just brick the damn layup off the backboard, and I'd be running, a couple steps behind him. The layup would hit the backboard with such speed because he wouldn't slow himself down. He had no proper form. It would ricochet so hard that I would have to then stop and watch it sail over my head off the backboard down towards the opposing basket, and then just have to turn and run again back down the court thinking, Angelo, why? So it could be frustrating playing with Angelo.
This team came about when Kathleen and Malloy and I were walking past a kickball field one day, and we said, hey, you know what would be really fun is if we formed a kickball team.
Yes, we were fantastic.
Awesome. The team was awesome.
We lost almost every game. We won a couple.
I would say our team was not good. I don't remember our team being very good at all.
Okay, so kickball league, we were thinking, or at least I was thinking, like there are not serious kickball players out there. I mean, it's kind of a joke. You go and you bring a cooler of beer and you go and kickball, and it's just all fun. That is not the case. There's some very, very, very serious kickball players out there.
People definitely took it seriously. They wanted to win. We did not choose to be such a losing team.
He would run from third base to right field because it would be like Kathleen Malloy standing out there who would just be covering her face from the ball, and he would make the catch somehow. He was the only reason we ever won. I think one game was our total wins.
On the ball field, Ange has moments where he would make a great catch. Then he'd have these moments where it's like, were you aware that there was another foot in front of you?
Watching him run across center field to save a ball that was going to hit my sister Ann in the head. I think he was saving all of us, and it was mostly probably saving the out versus saving one of us.
Intense, very intense. You just want, I mean, you could tell from the start that he just wanted to win.
He would come and just nail the ball, and he would run back and forth, catching the balls in the outfield that certain people couldn't, cover as well as others.
And he was so excited for our team. We had no athletic ability, and he would just cheer, and he would get so excited.
He was having fun. That's what it was all about.
And then we'd all go to the bars afterwards together, and it was really a special time because it was everyone in their element hanging out, and we would spend hours there just hanging out. And I remember one time we were at the bar, and Angelo had been there all day. I think he had brought a flask in his pocket particularly. But the bill came, and Angelo goes, "Gotta go," and jumped out the window and ran off.
I just remember Angelo, would bike, anywhere, 20 miles to go play kickball, and then play kickball, and then, bike back. And I was like, what are you doing,
And they're waiting for him. All of a sudden, they see this guy riding his bike down the block. And it's all the way down, the west side of Chicago somewhere. And there's Angelo riding around, saying hi to everybody. And that's kind of how I always view Angelo. Kind of the world traveler, say hi to everybody, friend to everybody, and unfortunately, kind of fearless.
We had a lot of things in common, but primarily, obviously, it was music, and we loved music, and our lives kind of revolved around it. The last year or so he was here, we spent a lot of time just driving around Chicago in the dead of winter, blasting Idiotech and yelling all the words out the window and Reckoner, and I feel like he got it. He really understood the bug that I had, and we were, feeling kind of like anything was possible and yelling all these great perfect lyrics, and I feel like he understood that they were perfection.
If he knew the songs, he'd be singing along with them. He'd get really into it.
Going to concerts with Angelo was really an experience. He was crazy. He would jump around and smile. I remember when he would get so excited, he would just be looking at the band singing, and then he'd look at me and smile and nod, and then just get back to the show.
And I really liked when we would go to concerts, and he had this way of kind of dancing and moving his big hair.
He tried dancing in his own way, I guess.
Were his dance stylings compared to Elaine from Seinfeld? I think that's what I've heard.
He danced like he was at a rave in the 60s. But he was just, there was a lot of arm movements and waving and jumping around. I mean, he was having fun. That was him. He didn't care about what you thought, and he was having fun.
Yeah, I certainly got annoyed when Angelo would blast his music throughout the house, especially when Jen and I or others were trying to watch something. I know this one specific time I decided to do something about it, so I went down into the basement where he was, cleaning the basement, and he was blasting Radiohead, and I asked him to turn it down. I said, "Angelo, can you turn that down?"
You gotta listen to this CD very loudly right now. More, stop it, I'm serious. I need to listen to this loudly right now. I'm dead serious. This whole album.
No.
Or you're just gonna have to listen to it.
No, Angelo, we were...
I'm downstairs. I am downstairs.
Yes, you are downstairs.
Okay, I'm out of your way.
Yeah, but we can hear it. The whole block can hear it. Oh, I'm telling Dad.
That was typical for Angelo, though, blasting his music, not really caring that other people didn't like it. Not that he was doing it to be malicious, just he was doing it to listen to music the way he wanted to.
We went back to the flat and we were playing cards, which was a good way to spend time over there. And we were playing a card game. He was playing with us and he said, does anybody mind if I put on some music? So he went and put on music. Everybody was okay with it. It wasn't a big deal, but he put on some weird like tribal chants. It was just a strange thing that he put on. I was blown away that he would put on this type of music in a completely foreign situation to him. He was a guest in somebody else's apartment.
We went to Lollapalooza in 2007. We went there because Daft Punk was headlining, and it was kind of a big deal. Daft Punk doesn't really come around very much, and they haven't come around since. So when we first found out about this, Angelo was absolutely devastated because he was going to be in Africa. And he just thought, well, I've got to find a way to go to this. I don't know how. Don't know how yet, but I'm going to find a way to go to this. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to be in Africa. You're going to be having a way more, way cooler experience, rare opportunities, whatever. You'll see Daft Punk eventually. He's like, no, I gotta find a way to do it.
I'll never forget. He just got back from Tanzania. And does he stay home and visit with his family? No, he goes to Lollapalooza. And I was there with another friend of mine, and I just remember kind of turning around, and there he was.
He calls me up. He's like, I'm here, where are you? And I find him, and he has dreadlocks or braids down like maybe midway down his shoulder. He's got dirt under his fingernails from climbing, I think it was Mount Kilimanjaro or something. Still dirt fresh under his fingernails from climbing it that day, or probably 10 hours earlier or something like that. And he's just like, hey, what's up? I'm at Lollapalooza, we're gonna see Daft Punk. I'm like, are you insane? Like, you didn't even stop home to take a shower? You just came straight to Grand Park to go to a festival. He's like, yeah, it's great, I'm gonna have a good time. And we had the best time.
I think that's kind of how I think of him. It's just turning around and there he is.
Me relief in my eyes and then wonder, hold up, I still have important things to say. I go home and watch news after stagnating all day. Just press play, cool out, sit back and relax and gobble up.
I would rather not describe what it was like driving a car with Angelo.
He would open his window and really yell at other drivers, which is probably not a good idea.
I remember one time somebody did cut us off, and right away was like, what are you doing, man? Just, all right, just take a chill pill, keep going.
He kind of had the reputation of being a laid-back guy, but he had quite a temper on him, and it really came out when he was driving.
Being in a car with Angelo was a terribly frightening experience, because anybody who's talking that fast, with music that loud, driving at that rate, with the kind of known attention to detail that I know Angelo did not possess, is a recipe for disaster.
I'd be going, move over! I am! Watch the car coming from that direction. And so one day I told him, I go, okay, turn here. We left the house. I go, turn here. So he turns. And I go, you're up on somebody's lawn. Get off the lawn!
Angelo's appearance was different.
He's like Cher, man. He has like a timeline of looks. He has the long black hair look that happened. He had the long brown hair thing. He had the shaved head going. He'd wear sombreros sometimes.
He was kind of a different sort. Like he grew a beard sometimes, and he'd grow it long, and he didn't grow a good beard. But he'd grow it long, and then he'd shave it, and somebody would say, looks good without the beard. And he'd say, yeah, it's just not the time for that. It's kind of a weird statement like that.
I found it quite humorous that Angelo had all his tattoos and his Bob Marley hair. And I used to tell one time when he came over, I looked at him and I go, "You look like a lion in the zoo." He had a beard and big hair and everything. And he thought that was pretty funny. He like, I like that. I go, well, that's what you remind me of.
the first time he came back with the mane and all. It's just like, what the hell is going on, man?
I loved it. I loved it because he wasn't doing it. I never felt that he was doing the hair thing or the beard thing I never thought he was doing it for attention. I always felt that was just what he felt like doing that day.
The Revolution tattoo would have to be the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Angelo. Like wearing it like a Miss America, sash across his body.
The tattoos, that waffle.
The singing waffle, angry singing waffle tattoo.
Was it a crying waffle? Is what it turned out to be, even though he wanted it to be a singing happy waffle or something like that. I liked that waffle tattoo.
I thought his tattoos were stupid, both of them. If he was okay with them, they're fine by me, but I mean, it's not something I would ever do.
And like, not only was it a waffle tattoo, but like, it wasn't the best waffle tattoo out there. It was like, it was a waffle. It was singing. It did have butter for eyes, I believe.
I was like, oh, you have a tattoo of a singing Belgian waffle. Did you get that in Belgium? Did you, have this really special breakfast of Belgian waffles? I thought, I need to remember this forever. And he's like, nope, got it in Indiana just like Belgian waffles. And that's exactly the kind of guy he is. He just kind of was spontaneous about it and, thought it was a nice little happy thing to have on his arm, so he did it.
We were at a Healy wedding and he walked into the pool with his waffle and his Revolution, and we just all cracked up. And his mother sat there and kind of rolled her eyes and said, "Can you believe that? A waffle?"
You're going to regret this tattoo later in life.
Well, if I would have ever regretted it, I would have never gotten it in the first place. Hence, I just got it. I like it a lot, actually.
Angelo's tattoos always made for good stories. We were at the Walsh's lake house, and Angelo got in an argument with one of their friends. I don't know what about, but it turned into a passionate political argument for whatever it was, and he stood up and he ripped off his shirt and he goes, "Revolution!" And it was just tattooed across his chest, and whoever this friend was like shocked.
It just fit him so well. It's like he was born with those tattoos,
And that's the other thing. He was a good-looking kid, and it was like he was trying to disguise it with some of his looks. When he would shave the graphics in his head, that would be, to me, that was kind of like typical for him.
You might look at him and be like, "Who is this guy?" But just talk to him. Just talk about anything, and I guarantee you'll get along with him.
Did people ever judge him? Everyone judges everybody, so I would say most definitely. In our culture specifically, you get judged for anything and everything, and you get judged pretty harshly too.
I could describe him in a short story. So it was after Angelo and Amanda had returned from India, and Jess and I were accompanying him to a family party of one of the Bonadonna cousins. This was up in Wrigleyville area.
We're having a couple beers, and then the party's gonna move on to a bar.
When he came back from India, he had the huge Abraham Lincoln times 5,000 beard, long hair.
And people in Wrigleyville are like super aggressive. Like you go down there at night and like people are aggressive, and it seems to me that guys down there like deliberately take this aggressive stance like down the sidewalk, and like they'll kind of shoulder check you or whatever.
And we're passing by a bar, and one of these just wretched hives of humanity that's right over there near Wrigleyville. The windows are all kind of open floor-to-ceiling windows at this bar, and some overly tanned harpy kind of squawks at us as we're passing by. "Fucking hippies!"
And Angelo doesn't even stop. He just turns on his heel, goes back to the window, sticks his head all the way in the window, with this big grin on his face, with his hair sticking up and his beard, and he just goes, "Peace," and smiles at her. Her face dropped completely, but there was no threat. And then we just We just walked on, and we were like howling about this.
When you have a conversation with Angelo, it was kind of like he would sit there and kind of bob his head back and forth and talk about it and start saying, you know, Johnny, and start talking. And
I mean, there was a few times where you had to have a heart-to-heart with him, and you know, he really listened. He really listened to you. You know, it wasn't like that fake listening where you could tell they're just being polite. He really, if you needed to talk to him, he was there.
He was, at the same time, someone could, you know, sit and listen and really pay attention, and in that moment, still be just as active. It really boils down to a lesson of awareness, and Angelo is certainly a very aware individual.
I think he wanted to listen. I think he wanted to learn. He wouldn't just listen to be polite. He would listen because he wanted to know what you had to say, which I think is rare.
You would see Angelo interacting with everyone. So you would see him talking to the little kids, to, you know, the next generation. You'd see him talking to everyone my age. You'd see him talking to all the adults, all the older people, everyone.
He never talked bad about anybody. He never, I mean, you never hear him gossiping.
I think that he would be genuinely happy for anyone who succeeded in anything. I mean, genuinely. Not because you had to be, but that, I think he was just a genuine soul. The things that I have to work at seem to come naturally to him.
He had such a, you know, pleasant nature about him and optimism, and I was always like, the world sucks and this place sucks and I can't wait to get out of here, it's driving me crazy, this job is ruining my life. And he would always just smile and be like, oh, it's fine, it's not permanent.
He was seriously the nicest person I've ever known, and people would be mean and I'd be like, how can you even talk to that person? He's just like, they're having a bad day. And someone who genuinely stood by that, you know, people are good at heart.
When you spent time with Angelo, you came away just feeling happier about life, about the world, about just spending time with this person that was so incredible.
I like that how he communicates, try not to be awkward, be afraid to talk to me. He just talk to me. I like that, and that's why Angelo is. Yeah.
He was sweet. He really had a gentle side to him that I know it sounds like it's idealizing him, because I know he could be bitter. I mean, he hated certain things. I mean, injustice and the system, the man. He had Marxist tendencies. The cops were not his favorite thing, and all that. And he would get vociferous and heated. But all I saw was real sweetness.
Wow, there's a bunch of rich kids from California. I didn't know Angelo was friends with them. That doesn't seem like his type of people. But I was wrong in thinking that Angelo had types of people, because everybody was Angelo's friend. Everybody could have been his type.
But I remember I had a big party after I moved into my apartment. And yeah, Ange and Terry both came and brought their friends. And I don't think I saw them coming in because I had a tiny apartment in Lakeview, and I didn't necessarily see Ange and Terry come in. And then I like eventually found my way back to my back porch where, you know, Ange was already holding court over all of my friends who he had just met like 5 or 10 minutes earlier. He had no problem sliding right into that situation.
I wouldn't say that he was like the life of the party or something like that, because Angelo wasn't the type of person, or at least I didn't know him to be the type of person to demand that people's attention be drawn towards him. But he was somebody who would talk to anybody who was at the party.
Someone who had gentle sides, competitive sides, exuberant sides.
I mean, he certainly wasn't a demure person. You could bring him out into polite company and he could probably control himself, but yeah, he was pretty sloppy in most ways in his life.
The natural.
Ooh, Ange, go get your picture taken with Terry. All right, stand up and let your faces come together.
No, get over.
Go by your brother, for heaven's sake. No!
Oh!
Get off the table, you... Get over there. What? I retract what I said about people and stupidity earlier.
It was just an experience.
You know, Terry in his way said, you know, there's something about Angelo, you know, we all know he's a goof, but every person who ever met him loves him. They all, every single one, they all love him. And I was glad Terry said that, because, you know, it was appreciative of Angelo. It was kind of quizzical about this quality he had. But it was accepting of the reality of it.
Somebody asked me once, and maybe I'll say this as the most frustrating thing, that everybody else liked him too much. And I don't mean that to be mean, but it's just nobody would have a negative thing to say about him anywhere, which just didn't make sense. And somebody said to me once, that he didn't like Angelo, and I asked him why, and he said because everybody else likes him too much. And I said, well, that's good. It's good to have that balance. Somebody needs to balance that out.
When I would talk to him, he always just kind of had this little smile on his face. It's hard for me to describe, you know, but anytime I ever saw Angelo always seemed like he was happy to see me. Well, naturally, that's going to make you feel good, you know, and I think he was, and I was happy to see him.
The real world. That's got to be the number, like, that is just, you know, stereotypical go-to line, you know, like, oh, so you're graduating? Well, what are you going to do in the real world? The real world. You know, first of all, you know, I know that life is not designed for you to be a student at all times, where you know, you have a structure where, you know, ideas can be thrown about and everything. But guess what? You know, my next few weeks are going to be just as real as my last 22 years have been, so what does the real world even mean? When people say that, what are they even referring to? Do they mean now you have to work all the time? Or what, now you have to start a family? Or now you have to look after yourself? Or what is it? What does it even mean?
You know, he would get angry about a lot of things. And one of those things was just kind of the status of the way people were living their lives after college. The idea of getting a job and just kind of settling down. And I think that that's a pretty common story. Like, I think a lot of people, especially in our generation, left college and were really disheartened at the way the world was, and eventually made peace with it in whatever way. And I think Angelo graduated at exactly the right time, where things were just so tough for college graduates, and you know, he seemed kind of lost for a while. He didn't do things by the book. He didn't have that, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get my degree in this, and then I'm gonna get a job in this, and then I'm gonna go here. He had, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna explore, I wanna know what's out there, I wanna study abroad, I wanna learn about other cultures and what they do. So he wanted to travel, and you know, and it wasn't clear what he wanted after that.
It was almost like there was Angelo before Amanda, and then there was Angelo after Amanda.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together.
So I have this letter that he wrote me on March 30th, 2008, and he says, Dear Amanda, first of all, welcome back. What do you think is more suitable now, the nomadic life of the traveler or the carefree life of a Spaniard? Quite the choice, eh? It's in those moments that we experience something new, that we can grow together. And it's in those times of mutual growth and appreciation that I feel an intensely strong connection to you. And he says, you know, even though I'm jealous of you, this jealousy is tempered because I know how great of an experience you're having. I suppose I had my chance to go wild on Europe for a few months before I even knew you, and now it's only fair for you to create your own independent trip for yourself. I've said it before and I'll say it again if I have to, but I would never want to be the cause of you not exploring something you find interesting. That's just one more reason I love you, your juicy zest for life. So, I don't know, I guess what I take from that letter more than anything was his ability to recognize that we all kind of have our own experiences and all have kind of a right to our own intense experiences. And even in our relationship, where at this point we had been together for a little over a year, and he was never possessive at all. You know, he just wanted me to experience the intensity of the world in the way that he had. And I think going abroad for him was one of the first times that he really kind of came out of his shell and was in awe of the beauty of the world around him. He was so supportive of people kind of trying to step out of their kind of day-to-day doing the kinds of things that they think that they have to do. He just was amazed by things in the world really easily.
Angelo's travels seem to be something that were kind of almost a spiritual thing for him, and that he was able to sort of live in the moment in a way that sometimes being bogged down in sort of the day-to-day doesn't allow you to do in such a bold way.
He was kind of a globetrotter. He spent a lot of time in a number of different continents, something that I would never want to do. It's something that he enjoyed, traveling, and I think certainly later in his life that was one of his greatest joys, was traveling, going from place to place and kind of exploring different cultures and exploring himself in different settings. He was definitely very restless. He didn't like staying in one place for a long period of time. He liked going somewhere else and settling in there for a time, but then he liked moving on to the next thing.
I remember one of his pet peeves was whenever anybody said it's a small world, they'd almost make him mad, because the world to him was so big and diverse and interesting, and it wasn't small. So, and for someone who traveled a lot, I mean, he really, I think, saw a lot of that and appreciated it. But it's just a saying. You can lighten up about that.
And it was more than just a vacation for him. It seemed like it really was like about the experience of living in a culture. You know, like actually being there and being a part of the place you're visiting, not just, you know, stepping in and eating in a restaurant. Like actually getting to know, you know, a little bit about the community, a little bit about the food, a little bit about the language. Like, and that is something that I think is absolutely essential. Like if you're going to travel and be a part of and be in someone else's community, I think it's important to make the effort to be a part of it.
But I was constantly impressed in how well Angelo seemed to keep people close to him. So he traveled all the time, obviously, and it was still amazing to me that he had these best friends from home who he clearly still talked to. And, you know, I think a lot of times when someone travels a lot, that's the relationships with people get lost along the way, and that just never seemed to be the case with Ange.
I was not surprised when Angelo got the teaching job in Thailand. Angelo did not really seem to have a direction here at that time.
I think he was down a bit before he went to Thailand, and he wanted change, and he needed a change, and he wanted to. I think he felt like he had gone too long without an adventure. I think he got a bit itchy when he didn't have something like that in the works, and I think when he spent too much time in a routine, it would kind of eat away at him.
I think he was just happy traveling, you know. I think he was happy being in new environments and meeting new people and seeing the world in as many possible ways as he could and getting as many perspectives on it as he could. And when he wasn't doing that, I think he got really anxious.
I'll probably see you in a couple of days. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll see you later. Have an awesome time. And like, he's just gone. You know, I mean, it'd be.
Go up and drive, and the next day he'd come back with just crazy stories.
Exactly.
Like I crashed my bike, and then had all these cuts and bruises.
But I had to
wrestle with a
I
snake.
had to go all the way across the other island.
The three of us to the mountain, because we kept losing Jello, like driving, but then we'd find him because it was always just that jacket. The jacket would just go by you, you know. Like he loved.
Teaching and living in Thailand was by far the most important experience in my life for many reasons. Thailand itself is a beautiful country, and the people and the culture are just as beautiful and great. But the most important thing for me about living and teaching in Thailand was meeting such important people in my life and such important friends, including Angelo, and getting to know these people, and it seemed like at that time when we were living in Thailand, it was the right time and the right place for a lot of people, and we really came together, and it was a group of the most compassionate, creative, and just incredible people that I've ever met in my life, and I learned so much from each and every one of them. For that, I'm forever grateful to Angelo and all my friends, and for that opportunity to live in such an amazing place at such an amazing time with such amazing people.
Angelo taught me that meaning is there everywhere I go. It's in the things I feel, it's in all the people I know, and it's in strangers and angels and the friends who seem gone. The one who howled at the moon and inspired revolution in all of us. It's in our joy and our highs and our hopes and our fears. And it's in the waterfall crashing with all of the tears that we cried and still do. But we always smile too. And although rainbows fade and leaves fall from the trees, and though butterflies will charm you and then leave on the breeze, let them hypnotize you. Let them be, let them go, and love moments like these. Love like Angelo.
When I talked to him on his birthday, he seemed just really happy.
The week Angelo died, there was a huge snowstorm, one of the biggest on record.
Steve, these pictures just don't do justice, but we had to take them for you since you're sunning in Thailand, enjoying Rome right now.
That was the big story around here, is several feet of snow.
But that Saturday morning, I got the call at 8:20 in the morning. I was the only one awake, and that led to a very difficult day.
You know, his dad came in and woke me up and told me about the phone call from Thailand about him being missing after they had been out on a hike, and, you know, they couldn't find him.
And I didn't understand it at first. It's one of those phone calls that, you know, changes your life.
Loretta called me before they knew what had happened, and they said that Angelo was lost, or that they didn't know where he was. And I thought, oh, this has happened to him before, he'll be okay. It didn't occur to me that he had died.
But I mean, I knew Angelo well enough to know that he got himself into situations like this all the time, where he was, I mean, he just could shake it off. And so as the day went on, I felt pretty strongly that we would find out that he had just hit his head and was sitting in the woods somewhere. And that ended up not being the case, but that's pretty much the way I felt. And maybe I was deluding myself in a way, but I talked myself into feeling that way, and I really felt that he was probably fine somewhere.
It just didn't seem real at first. It was like, I mean, it was real, but at the same, it was surreal, I guess, is a good word to describe it. But it was really shocking. And I didn't think he was dead. Like, that's not what, that thought didn't even occur to me. It was just weird to think that he was missing.
I was fairly confident he would be found. It just seemed like such an Angelo thing to come out of the jungle and say, I was fine, why were you, you know?
I thought that he, you know, at worst had maybe injured himself and was waiting somewhere, and that day that I was waiting to hear back from Loretta was so long.
Oh no, we were hoping that he would be alive. I think of what Terry said immediately afterwards, that he said a couple of things that were memorable, but one of the things he said was, you know, Angelo so typically would get into a scrape of some kind or another, and he always, you know, rub his head, whoa, that was rough, but, you know, be okay.
And I took more for a haircut, and you know, when I came home, everybody was here. Well, family, a lot of family, our siblings.
But I was just shocked to see everyone there. Like, the news traveled really quickly. I don't know how, maybe Mom called them or Dad. But it was good to see them all there, but at the same time, like, I hadn't really felt anything about it until that moment. Like, then it was like, it hit me, I'm like, oh my God, something could happen.
The day, as horrible as it was, had some blessings in it. It was good to have hope for 12 hours, or however many hours it was. It was good to have the family come together and both kind of grieve and give hope.
I would say the phone call was probably about 11 o'clock that night.
Like, my heart jumped when the phone rang, because I don't know, I felt like they had to know by now, so I figured that was the phone call.
What was told to us on the phone was that they had found Angelo, so we were happy at first, but then he said it was JJ that we got the phone call from, and then he said, well, we recovered his body, so then we knew.
And I walked in, and I just looked over at Mom, and I could see on her face the news that she had gotten, and so I went over and hugged her, and just that's pretty much the way that we stayed for a while, just an unpleasant evening.
I collapsed, and it just seemed so implausible. I felt like I could still feel his presence in the world.
It was nice to see how many friends that he had made over in Thailand. how many relationships how many close friendships he started, and it was just good knowing that he was able to be so close with so many people in time.
Well, going to Thailand was a blessing. I think we did it so that everyone could be where Angelo was, but it did provide us a chance to be together and to come to know his Thailand life together at the same time.
I wanted to see what it looked like. I think that some people would rather not under those same circumstances. I don't know. I think they questioned whether or not. I mean, I think they even asked us, you know, do you want to go? And yeah, I did want to go. I like to think of it as a place that he loved to go to.
It was scary because I knew what had happened there, obviously. That's where his accident was, and it looked really pretty. It was a pretty waterfall, and it looked tame, but it was really slippery, actually. Like, I'd never been on rocks that slippery. I didn't know they could be that slippery.
But the water was a little bit more angry that day. There had been a lot of storms recently, and so that the water was at a higher level and it was moving at a much greater speed than usual.
And as careful as I was being, there was still moments where, like, I would lose my footing, or the rock was just that slippery.
So we were trying to walk across the water at this point.
Wider area to cross over. If the water doesn't get really higher, it gets wider.
Well, the waterfall was very beautiful. Where I'm walking, thinking that every possible misstep would equal death. And not realizing that they swam in those pools and they, you know, that they would go there and do that, but the circumstances when Angelo was there was it was just much. The monsoons had just come, and the water was much faster and higher and more dangerous.
You know, I guess what they didn't realize was how dangerous the turbulence of the water. At monsoon season, it had been raining a lot, and it wasn't so deep as it was, you know, rapid. And so we can only surmise that either he stepped into the water or was pulled into it.
And it's kind of mysterious how this happened, but somehow he slipped and fell and ended up at the bottom of a whirlpool.
He had head trauma, whether he hit his head going down or when he was in the pool, but he got caught in a whirlpool. He could have been put, you know, he could have been pushed around and hit his head on a rock underwater. He could have hit his head going in. Either he died from head trauma or he drowned. You know, I don't know.
The water had currents and it was fast, and it pulled him in, and we had to point out to us the spot where he was found. He was caught under a rock in a pool just below where he went in. We know where he went in, but we just don't know if he went in or if he slipped in. Apparently there had been many deaths at that location. It was a very dangerous place, but that danger was not known because it had been 10 years since so many people had died. So many people had died there.
I mean, I definitely would say my time in Thailand brought me closer to Angelo. It was something about being there and seeing everything and being able to walk where he walked and experience types of things and meet the people he did. It was dangerous beauty. It was such a beautiful sight, but then you realize all the dangers that were hidden within it, and you wouldn't believe that. It was an unbelievable sight that something so peaceful and beautiful was so dangerous at the same time, and it was a tough to really take it all in.
I've envisioned it happening so many different ways, and I really was bothered by it for a long time, and I think I still am, but I'm trying to make peace with the fact that I won't ever know.
1,000 things that make me think of Angelo. Reggae music, hammocks, adventure. But my thoughts most often turn to him when I'm surrounded by nature. I think of him when I'm around people I love, traveling to a new place, or just having a beer by the sea. The joy that Angelo took in the world around him was contagious. He taught me to see the beauty of every day. I am grateful for every second that I spent with him.
It's kind of a hole that that when you get together, either just at Bonadonna's or Christmas, or we all get together, it's kind of like something's always missing.
Hello, I just want to take this opportunity to say what a glorious day it is outside here today, April 22nd, 2008. The weather's wonderful.
When a person dies, of course we just remember the good things. We have good things to say and nice things to say, and of course, and that's the way it should be, When Angelo passed away, there was something different. There was something powerful, and as horrible as this has been, as horrible as it is, what happened to him, I can't help but be struck by the impact his life had on me. And it's not because he's gone that people say the things that they said, because they were saying those things about him before.
I think it's set in, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think you have to come to terms with what happened. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Bonadonna, Angelo, and Loretta, my Lord, if I think they kind of set the example on that. I've never seen anyone take something so tragic like that and and be so strong about it. I'm sorry. but that's an example, I think, to take from this whole thing. His mom and dad, Angelo and Loretta, how they handled that was godlike. I can't think of any other way to express it, but I think they set the example on how to act after that happened. And they were smiling and laughing and telling stories. And I think all of us, his friends and extended family, took that example and kind of ran with that. So obviously everyone was really broken up about it, but I think we all followed their lead on how to react to it. And that's something I will never forget. And the strength that those two shown first the weeks after that, and now the years after, is something that we all kind of look to and follow. And that was pretty amazing to see, not gonna lie.
It's not the same as being alive. I know you're living in my mind. It's not the same as being alive. Supersymmetry. Supersymmetry.
For all of Angelo's crazy antics and all the stories everyone tells, I think of Angelo as the little boy in the backyard with the big red bat and the wiffle ball.
A free spirit.
I look at the sky and I see him in the clouds.
Love. Love comes to my mind when I think about Angelo.
I think maybe that image of him flying off into the night on a bicycle in the middle of winter in sandals.
To me, when I think about Aunt, he's having a conversation with somebody.
I think of him getting really animated, when he's talking about a subject.
He's always in motion. It's not just like a static, a shot there.
Because his life had so much meaning, and anything associated with his life and death has to be good. It has to be, even though it doesn't make sense and it's not good, it's a horrible thing, it shouldn't have happened.
It never goes away. It just, and when someone dies, it's not even the grief per se, it's just the constant state of missing the person.
Hey, you know what? You enjoyed life, you had a good time. You did what you wanted to do.
I think everyone should remember him as much as possible whenever they can, and do things like look at his picture and watch videos of him and just keep him alive. And because life sucks without people like him in it. So
I smile when I very seldom, naturally I was sad, but I was more, I have more smiles when I think about him, and I'm more happy thinking about him than I am sad about losing him.
I'd probably tell him just that I'm really grateful to have known him.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Hey guys, it's me. I was just calling to say hi and happy birthday to Mom. I think you might be having a party right now, so I thought I might be able to catch you, but oh well. I'll just try back tomorrow probably for you. But yeah, I hope everything's going great and that it's been a good birthday for you, Mom, and that I hope that we can talk soon.